Mercury-Venus conjunction in the chart. It's pretty common because Mercury and Venus never move too far away from each other. They're usually either in the same sign or in an adjacent sign from each other. Once in a while you'll get them on opposite sides of the sun. It certainly happens, but especially when Venus is at the extremes of its orbit. But often you see Mercury and Venus together in the same signs. So it's a common but important, conjunction. And what it does is it brings together the planet of communication and detail, which is Mercury, with the planet of beauty and aesthetic and kindness and compromise, yielding, which is Venus. So Mercury is the it's called the speaker, or the speech giver, and speech is a something that is best launched into with equanimity of mind and with neutrality and without a lot of drama and passion. Again, passionate speakers are very engaging, but I mean, when there's clear communication, the information is still good. So someone can be very passionate about what they say, but what they're speaking is still accurate and not exaggerated or distorted. When the function of speech itself becomes too emotional, then it gets exaggerated, or we might tend to lie and not tell the truth because we don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or because we don't care about hurting their feelings and we want something, or all kinds of things can get kind of distorted. So, Mercury is this function that brings about intelligence, and intelligence implies that we're looking at all things, somewhat equally, and we're also, noticing the details, and we're trying to share them. So this is the thing about both Mercury and Venus as well. What they have in common is they're both about sharing. And sharing has to do with the Rajasic guna. They're both Rajasic, and Rajasic is energy that needs to be shared. I get this, you get this. It's equal, it's even. So the speech of Mercury is also equal part listening, equal part giving. Knowing when to speak, knowing when to listen. Speaking in response to listening, listening after speaking. This is what makes for good communication. And also with how the details in us, within us, how they communicate with each other. Oh, this new piece of information came. Here's how that fits in, and that's what happens. So when that comes into contact with Venus, which is about beautifying, finding beauty in life. Beauty, it doesn't necessarily mean aesthetic beauty, but it as it relates to other people and sharing, it's about mutual respect, not just what makes me happy, but also what makes you happy. Not only what pleases me, but what pleases you. And ultimately, they become kind of the same thing. And it's easy to mix them up. Especially in relationship, we try to please the other equal. We want to have equality. We want to find things that we both enjoy. This is what makes for good relationships. This is what, your best friends in the world share. They like the same things that you like. They get a good feeling from the same things that give you a good feeling. You don't have a lot of friends who don't like the same things you like because you're not sharing a good feeling. If you're around friends, you may have some friends where you both share a certain thing in common, but then you don't go into this topic because then it's hard for you both to enjoy that experience. Maybe you both like to talk about astrology, but she likes, Democratic politics and you like Republican politics, so we don't want to talk about that. Or this one's a Christian, this one is that, so we don't want to talk about that. So we'll stick to the things that we agree on and share them. This is what Venus is about. So Mercury and Venus together can really support that function of sharing and communicating and enjoying that. In another sense, in an aesthetic sense, Mercury as noticing detail is very good at improving what we find beautiful. So you'll often see that Mercury and Venus, when it's well supported, the person will have a very refined aesthetic, a real creative sense, particularly when you get it in, let's say, earth or air signs, because Venus and Mercury rule earth and air signs, so they're really in their elements there, especially as it relates to earth, because earth is about creating something literally like a painting or a meal or something to enjoy, and air is about ideas like writing or other kinds of creativity like music and art. Often when you see Mercury, Venus together, though, in water signs, for instance, you'll see a love of music, because music has a lot to do with water, with the water sign, because it's kind of flowing. You can also see it very much in air or earth, because they're both creative. They're both very creative. So you can see all kinds of creative skill and joy that happens when Mercury and Venus get together. And depending on the elements, it's more supported or detracted from that. Mercury, Venus, and fire can also be very inspired and inspiring. And of course, that can also be things like music and art and painting, or just wanting to organize things or organize people or situations. So you'll see, for instance, when you get Mercury and Venus together, it's Venus that really appreciates music, let's say music or art. We'll just use music as an example. Venus is something that appreciates it, and then Mercury gives the skill to actually learn how to do it, break down like how to play an instrument. Mercury is very good for playing an instrument because it's all those skills. It's the hands, and it's figuring out how to do it. So you'll see Mercury, Venus together often. There will be skill in an instrument, or it could even be a skill in something like dance. That's another sort of creative outlet. Fire, could certainly have to do with the creative quality of dance. And so this is an important thing to look at. When you see Mercury-Venus conjunction, don't be like, oh yeah, Mercury-Venus are together. They really support each other, and whatever element they're in, and they support a sort of creative gift and the desire to want to share it with others. And even if the person is not literally creative themselves, where they make music or whatever, or they make art, they'll often appreciate it. They'll like to talk about it, think about it, and you certainly see it. I've seen it a lot with people who play instruments, because there's a technical skill, literally, like you have to move your fingers a certain way, and so again, the appreciation of the music is the Venus thing, and the skill is the Mercury thing. And so this is also where you can see in the human realm of the appreciation of the other person is Venus, and then the skill to adjust and adapt and want to speak with them and to communicate well is the Mercury part. It's a common yet important placement in a natal chart.